Hi guys, back again. Okay, so what we're talking about today. So still more in the line of subtle emotional abuse, but I wanted to talk about why we struggle to say no, because that's a huge issue for a lot of us. And I want to tell you why I think we struggle to say no. This is my theory on why we struggle to say no. The first 7 years of your life, you're in a theta brainwave state, which basically means you're in a hypnotizable state, and you are being brainwashed, programmed, conditioned, and groomed in those first 7 years. It's like you're an unwritten DVD player and you get written on. Those first 7 years, you are in a state of being where you're just like absorbing it all from the outside in. And this is why in the Bible it says, "Show me the boy, I will show you the man." So they knew, even way back then, that the way you condition or bring up a child will absolutely impact on the man that then becomes, and by man I mean man and woman. Okay, so the first 7 years you're being conditioned, brainwashed, groomed and programmed by your outside reality. And this is why parenting is such a tough gig, and sometimes that's why we get it so wrong as parents, doing our best but failing miserably. Because we're trying to help children socialize on the planet, so they hear a lot of no, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, come here, do as you're told, behave, don't do this, don't do that. And we are trying, our parents, God bless them, are trying to help us manage this planet, and it's all about staying safe, trying to keep these kids alive. But in that, we are subtly, or not so subtly, and this doesn't happen through words necessarily, but we know as children, and I don't know about you, how old you are, where you were when you were brought up, and but when you were told to do something, you didn't say no. You never said no. You just went and did it. You didn't say anything, because you knew if you said no, or you spoke up, or you said anything, you'd have either got the backhand, a good hiding, got blasted, got told off, maybe got even beaten. I've spoken to people who have been horrifically, by their parents. And so we knew on some level, and some of that is very subtle, because if you didn't do it quick enough, or you didn't do it the right way, you were judged and criticized and blamed. And this is where we get the idea that we're never enough, because I think as kids we're asked to do things that we're not actually really capable of doing, and then get criticized because we didn't do them well enough. And back in the day, don't forget, children were brought up a lot more tougher, a lot more harsher, and maybe we've gone the other way now, and there's some truth in that. But what we were taught growing up is kind of pivotal to who we then become. Because, okay, for example, if you know damn well that if you said no to your parents, you were going to get beaten, told off, maybe abandoned and neglected. And what I mean by that is, well, they wouldn't talk to you. They'd be disappointed with you. So they'd have that look on their face as if like you're such a disappointment. Now, don't forget, as a child, we're in a position where we're just kind of trying to survive childhood. So we are these the godlike figures in our life, and my job is to keep you sweet so I can stay in the group, the gang, the family, and so I do as I'm told. And so back in the day, parents would wield with a lot more power and fear. It was a fear-based, authoritarian kind of parenting structure we had. Now it's kind of a little bit they call it laissez-faire, a bit more hands-off, a bit like too soft, and like we're trying to keep them all happy. And so not everyone, but obviously there's been a trend where, obviously, which is great, we treat our kids with more respect, which as we should do, because I don't think we were treated with much respect. We were hit by strangers, teachers at school, clobbered us and all of that, and some worse than others, obviously. Now, some people never experienced that. I don't think people that are probably watching this are people that have never experienced that. But anyway, so the first 7 years you've been programmed. And of course, this is where you're not allowed to say no. You're not allowed to say, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to change my bed. Or, if your parents said, go up and tidy your room, you would go up and tidy your room, or else. Okay, so that's when you are being conditioned that you're not allowed to say no. So this is why we struggle to say no. So we're going to do a little bit of an experiential exercise. Only take a couple of minutes. And we're going to just close your eyes a minute and just breathe. Just relax and breathe. I'm going to say a word and I want you to tap into your body and just notice how that word sits inside of you. So every word, everything we say carries weight, carries an energy. So I'm just going to give an experience of that. So close your eyes, deep breaths in and out. And I'm going to say the word no. 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 So now open your eyes and just connect with that and just notice how it felt. It might have felt heavy, it might have felt like a contraction, it might have felt dark. Use any kind of word or analogy you want, but just notice it, okay? Now I'm going to say another word, so close your eyes again. I'm going to say another word. Yes. 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 Now, how did that word feel? Now, usually I do this with a lot of my clients, just to give them an understanding of, because the word no generally tends to feel a bit heavy and more negative. The word yes feels a bit more lighter, a bit more expansive. And so these words hold energy. And so a lot of us, we've been trained and conditioned and programmed, you're not allowed to say no, okay? And so that's what is still getting triggered even in the here and now. Even if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, you're still feeling that, oh gosh, I'm going to get into trouble, or I'm not allowed to say no. Because if I say no, they won't love me, they won't approve of me, they won't be there for me, they won't, we talked about transactions, they won't give me what I'm used to getting, whatever that is, maybe looking after the kids. And this can work both ways. Someone left a message and I realized this can totally work. It's not all about parents you can't say no to. Sometimes as parents, we can't say no to our kids. We've brought up kids where we don't feel like we can say no to them. We feel like we have to look after those kids. We have to do what they want to do because maybe they'll punish us by not bringing the kids around or getting the hump or not coming around to see us or not, maybe, helping us with some things that need doing around the house. And maybe that, you can't say no to them. So this works for anybody. It's not just about, children, feeling this way about their parents. This also works the other way around with parents feeling this way about their kids. Oh, I can't say no. If they ask to borrow money, or if they ask to, I don't know, come stay with you, or they ask to look after the kids once a week, or, I think, see, this is the generation when we were just taught you're not allowed to say no. So that can work to your parents or to your friends or to your work, your boss or your kids. We just struggle to say no. Now, it's really important because I think education equals knowledge, knowledge equals understanding, understanding equals power, and ultimately freedom, because we've got to understand what gets in the way of us being able to say no to the things we don't really want to do. Now, the biggest form of betrayal is what we do to ourselves. So if I say yes when I mean no, I'm going to feel disconnected from myself, a sense of betrayal because I'm not really in alignment with head, heart, mind, body, soul. And so if I say yes when I mean no, I'm going to betray myself, but also I'm going to betray the person I'm saying yes to, because I'm going to end up feeling bitter and resentful towards them. And that's going to cause, maybe we talked about the bricks on the wall. That hurts us and them. And so, but you've got to understand why you're in a position where you struggle to say no. And you struggle to say no to everybody, to anybody. It doesn't have to be a parent, it can be anybody. The person down the street wants to ask you to do something and you really struggle to say no. So this is about anyone that's struggling to say no to somebody, because then if you are the kind of person that can't say no, then you're at the mercy of them. I think it leaves you very vulnerable, especially if you know in yourself that you're a bit of a chronic people pleaser, or you're a yes person. And yes feels better. Yes, we want to say yes because it makes us feel better initially, but actually, act in haste, repent at leisure. So, oh yeah, I'm going to go do this because someone asked me to help out, or someone asked me to do something. Because I'll feel bad. I feel like they will not like me, not approve of me. They'll be angry with me, they will reject me, they won't be my friend anymore. So I have to put up with what anyone ever asked me to do and say yes. And in that, you are betraying yourself at the deepest level because you're not honouring what you really want. Maybe you don't even know what you really want. See, I had to learn the hard way that, I was chronic people pleaser, that I kept saying yes and I kept feeling bad and wondered why, because I didn't really understand, why do I feel bad? Why does everybody annoy me? Why am I frustrated? Why am I holding on to all this resentment? What is the brick wall all about? And I realized I was the problem. I was the one that was saying yes when I meant no, because I'd been conditioned to do that. I would been conditioned to be afraid to say no, because I was afraid that they wouldn't like me, they'd reject me, or they'd feel bad. You see, you have to be able to give a no and take a no. And for me, I couldn't give a no, but I also couldn't take a no, because if someone said no to me, I felt rejected. And this is why it kind of goes in and out. Well, I can't say no, I can't give a no, and I can't take a no. And so I have to help people realize what's behind that, what's underneath it, what's driving this inability to say no. And we have been taught, no, don't think about yourself, because that makes you selfish. So we've been taught to betray ourselves and do what these people want you to do, because they won't love you if you don't. Now, that can work either with the parents or the children, the work colleagues, your friends at work, your boss at work, people down the street, a neighbour. Someone wants you to do something and I've been conditioned to say yes and not really consider what you want. And, I realized I was not I was a very angry woman. And I realized why that anger was, because I was a chronic people pleaser. I just said yes to everybody. And I felt very at the mercy of everyone around me. And that wasn't freedom. That was the opposite of freedom. I felt like a slave to what everyone else wanted me to do and who they wanted me to be and what they wanted me to do. Maybe it's your sister that she puts on you and asks you to babysit all the time and you really don't want to. And you don't have to I think because, if you haven't got a reason, then you haven't got a right. You don't have to have a reason if you just don't want to do something. But people will tell you, oh, you're just mean, oh, you're just selfish, or why wouldn't you? And this is because this works, this kind of thing works. Well, why wouldn't you? You're at home doing nothing. I think maybe a lot of kids expect their parents to look after their kids. Well, you're at home doing nothing. Why wouldn't you want to look after my kids? Well, you're their grandparents and there is an expectation. And so it can come from both sort of sides, like from the parents down, from the children up. Well, you're their grandparent, you should. There is an expectation. And that's fair enough. I mean, if they don't want to look after your kids, I don't think that's a problem. If parents don't want to look after their grandkids, why should they? They had their kids. Why do they need to look after yours? And if you only love and appreciate them because they're doing something for you, well, that's conditional love. What's that about? So it's tricky. It is tricky. It's tricky because I'm trying to put forward, you can't control anybody out here. If they only love you because you do stuff for them, and that doesn't matter who you are, parent, child, whoever, if they only like you, if they only approve of you because you're saying yes to them all the time, you soon find out who your friends are. So once you help somebody establish why they have got unhealthy boundaries and then help them establish healthy boundaries and why it's important to have healthy boundaries, then you realize, do these people really love and appreciate you or, are friends with you, or are they only friends with you because what you do for them? And you soon separate the people that really care and are for you than those that are just kind of using you. And sometimes when you find out those people are people that you would hope wouldn't use you, like maybe parents or children, it's tricky. It's tricky. You have to be able to sit. And this is why you've got to do the work first. You've got to really create the safe space inside of you. Because I know a lot of people that have been friends with somebody, not because they really like their company, not because they actually enjoy it, and maybe they are a little bit, might I say, emotionally abusive because they feel like they've got no one else. So they feel like they've got no other friends or no other family. Well, if I don't do what these people want me to do, then I'm not going to have anyone. And I don't know, I suppose when I work with people, I say to them, sometimes we pay a heavy price, don't we? We pay such a heavy price to be in relationship with people that actually aren't that great to us, or only are with us because of what we bring or what we give or the fact that we say yes. And this is a tricky one. So it's easier when you feel better about yourself. This is why I teach people how to do the rewiring. And what I mean by that, change the way they think about themselves, change the way they relate to their emotions. So when that toxic guilt comes up, you don't just want to repress it, you want to embrace it. I teach people how to have a different relationship with those different aspects. So, we turn this part into the parent. And so if you've got nothing but a harsh parent, then you have to change that dialogue. You have to change that. If you've a very wounded inner child, then you have to change the relationship you have with her and him. The reason you have a very not healthy relationship is probably because you're not listening to that, and you are out of alignment. You're saying yes when you mean no. And boundaries is about realizing, don't ever say yes when you mean no, because it's going to hurt you and it's going to hurt others, because you betray yourself and then you betray them, and you start building walls. And this is why I think, the symptom might be illness or whatever it is. I actually think underneath it's this self disconnect, it's this fragmenting of self, it's that disconnection. It's that causes a lot of our unwellness, because it puts a lot of stress and strain on the whole body when you're being a yes person, saying yes when you mean no. You really do betray yourself at the deepest level. And if you think about, that's the way we've all been conditioned and programmed to be, then that's why there's that kid inside you that's still scared of being neglected, abandoned, not liked, not approved of, not loved, not being in relationship with these people. And so this is crucial. This is crucial for your well-being, to actually understand why you struggle to say no. Understand what's behind that, what's underneath it, what drives it. And a lot of these drives that are playing out in the now stem from the first 7 years. And people think that's ridiculous. But if you think about it, if you're a subconscious being in a hypnotizable state, then you're very susceptible to your outside reality. And people don't say this. They don't say, you're not allowed to say no to me. It comes through the messages. It comes through the messages that you see. If they slap you, if they smack you, if they get angry with you, you soon learn pretty darn quick as a kid, you better not do that again. You better do as you're told, mate, because someone might not like it. You might get a good hiding. And back in the day, that's what they did. Spare the rod, spare the child. They had that philosophy around kids. Anyway, something to think about. What stops you from saying no? What does it mean if you said no? What would happen if you said no? Ask yourself these questions with these people. Can you take a no? What happens when someone says no to you? Do you feel like deeply rejected? Because ultimately no one can reject you but you. But starting to understand yourself, the way you are, the way you work. Know thyself. This is what this is all about. So just some food for thought. Think about it. If you want to share whatever you share in the comments, please do so. Thank you for all the comments on the last few videos. I've really appreciated them. Keep them coming. What else do I want to say? Oh, like, subscribe, and pass this on to somebody if you know someone's struggling to say no. A lot of us have been taught to be yes people, to be people pleasers, and it hurts us. It really does. Anyway, all for now. I'll see you next time. Bye.